The powerful define the standards of virtue. Such principles of the Telvanni fall upon the faction of Telvanni contracts to maintain and uphold. Visit Heimland Keep and join us today.
Hey guys, I'm the Human Floyd and very happy to be back. Welcome to Scrollplay Season 2. Scrollplay is the Elder Scrolls Online role-playing show. We talk about storylines, IC happenings, and we dig deep into the art and practice of roleplay. If none of this makes any sense to you, worry not. The world of roleplay is massive, but this video will help you get started and you can see what it's all about for yourself. Before we get started, I have 2 prizes to give out. The first, no, it's not a Master Ball. It is a blue snowball microphone with a mic stand, and of course, I will give you the USB cord too. And the winner of the blue snowball is Model X Hyper. Congratulations! Send me an email to thehumanfloyd@gmail.com with your address, and I will get this bad boy sent off to you. The second prize is a Naga gaming mouse. This is the MMO version, so it has all of the buttons on the side so that you never have to take your hands off of WASD and you can cast all your spells with your thumb. Very useful for PvP especially, I've found. Unlike the mic, this drawing was for the wizards who support me on Patreon. There will be more giveaways in the future, and there are already tons of other goodies that you can get by supporting the show on patreon.com/thehumanfloyd. And without people doing that, the show would not really be able to happen. So thanks, guys. And the winner of the MMO gaming mouse is Salik. Congratulations, and everybody else, keep your eyes on the channel for more giveaways, both for general viewers and for patrons. In this new season of Scrollplay, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I now have the help of 6 of ESO's most devoted community members. They're scouring the roleplay world, searching for news to put on this show. Their names are going to be coming up soon on the screen, so keep an eye out. There's also a thread at tinyurl.com/scrollplaynews that you can post on if you want to see your roleplay on this show. Our top story tonight is about the Greymire Argonians of the Aldemary Dominion. But first, let's take a look at what else is going on in Tamriel. In general community news, the OP cast just did an interview with lead loremaster Lawrence Schick. The wise monocle answered 20 questions from the roleplay community that were posted on TESORP. It's a lot of great new lore, and he answers all of them in character as his roleplay character Phrastus the Sage. It's really good, and he's an incredible voice actor, so you guys have to check it out if you want to know all of the new lore that just came out. And OPcast has another interview coming up with ZoS McLaughlin, the lead writer for ESO. This is the guy that wrote most of the main storyline. And I'm sure the ever-awesome community manager, Jess Folsom, will be there too, so you don't want to miss it. You can get in on the interview. There's a contest, link in the description below, and you can get a special meet and greet with Wynn and Jess. So that's awesome. Check it out. As I said in my Buy to Play and Roleplay video, there's a lot of new players coming in now that Unlimited is released, so I just want to take a moment to remind everyone of that and to be patient and to answer any and all questions that they might have. Welcome them in, help them out with some lore, make sure they get in the OOC community guilds, and try to find a good guild for them. It's really great to see a lot of old people coming back and seeing a lot of new people coming in. I can't believe how much roleplay there is everywhere. It's insane. So let's keep the momentum up and make sure that we get these people to stay this time. This is something that I've been wanting to announce for a while now, but I haven't had time to fit it into an episode. It's an incredible website with the Khajiit language on it. It was created by Razakar and Kiresh. I hope I said your name right. They're trying to create the entire Khajiit language, and lots of role players have been using it, and it's been really cool for immersion. So if you're a Khajiit or you deal with Khajiit, you should definitely check it out. From your Saklit friend, good job, guys. On to faction news for the NA Megaserver. You can see the names of the correspondents on the screen here, and their @handles in case you need to get a hold of them. In Aldmeri Dominion news, there was a break-in at the Thalmor Embassy. A ragtag group of concerned citizens gathered outside. Apparently, a criminal in the hands of the Thalmor was possessed by an evil alien spirit, and only barely defeated. There's a masked ball held in Woodhearth tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, run by Varland, and if you've heard about him at all, you know that his events are always amazing. So he's been talking to me a little bit about it, and it's going to be really cool, guys. You should definitely be there if you're in the Dominion. In DC news, a pack of werewolves has murdered and left the bodies of a Fellsrun family on a hill. Some say that they're a cult, although strangely enough, not of Hersing. Mysterious flooding is also troubling the town. Citizens have seen several people at the southern waterfall, including the court wizard of House Vekon. Rather unusually, the spooky old Shadeville Manor in the backwoods of North Point, the home of the infamous House Gawadu, has been the site of 2 weddings recently. Priestess of Debella Siren and Priest of Stendar Anduin Cavain were wed there by Chaplain of the Vindicated Marcus Pelianol. I hope I said all those names right. Following this, Lady Celine Gawadunin and now Baron Gilus Cairn were wed by a priest of Count Tryon Durrell. A 3rd wedding is planned between Lady Leanne Gawadunin and Sir Evelon Jaror of House Stormbringer. Wow, that's a lot of names. Lady Morna Gawadunin was heard saying, "So help me, if just one more person decides to get married this month, I'll strangle them with my bare hands. Do you know how hard it is to get sufficient quantities of water hyacinth for the centerpieces this time of year? Debella's breath has everyone gone mad." Clouds of bats have been seen over the manor almost constantly since the announcement. In relation to the wedding between Celine and Gilus Cairn, the NPC group, the Lion's Fang, assumed to be part of Gawadunin's protection force for Shadeville Manor, has been dismissed. I don't know the backstory to all of this, but it sounds really interesting, and if you're into feudalism roleplay, then NADC is the place for you. On to Ebonheart Pact news, my homeland. Tailger, or Tailger, I'm not sure how to say it, has been working really hard to get people interested in RP PvP. So if you want to smash some heads and yell blood for the Pact, or if you want to be involved in planning events, you should get a hold of them. As always, links in the description. Nimalton has become a budding hub of roleplay in the Rift. There's a lot of guilds based in and around there, so if you're interested in getting in on some Nord roleplay, or you just want to go to a tavern, you should definitely check it out. The Fighters Guild is also going to be holding a class there on the 29th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. The class is going to be run by Tharg's Stormfury. And the Skyrim All Thingy is just after that at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you are interested in getting questions both IC and OOC answered from the Council of Skyrim in a town hall type setting, you should definitely go check it out. In Morrowind, the Ashlander War is coming to an exciting conclusion this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. If you want to be in one of the biggest roleplay battles ever, we need a lot more Ashlanders, so message me at The Human Floyd to get involved. Primal and barbaric gear will be provided. Level does not matter. Just show up and have some really fun battle roleplay. Arthyn Sarthos, who we'll be hearing from soon, will be holding a victory party in Kraganmore on April 3rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. Apparently, he thinks they're gonna win. And finally, for NA News, we will be having on April 1st, Retcon Day, aka the day that never was. This is an event that I would love to see spread to the other factions and the EU Megaserver as well. It's basically going to be a day where everything that happens is retconned to the next day. We're going to be having celebrations in the city of Ebonheart at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, so you definitely want to be there. There's going to be lots of crazy stuff going on, and it'll be nice to just kind of unwind and relax after this massive Ashlander war and how serious it's been. So I'll see you guys there, and other factions, EU, you guys should put on something too. See if you can do it better than we can. On to the EU Megaserver news. Here are the EU correspondents for each faction on the screen. Be sure to hit them up with information about your upcoming storylines, current storylines, events, all of that stuff. In general EU news, I just want to announce that there's a new website, S02E01.engine.com. Commodore Fury has been working really hard to make it an accommodating and informative place for EU players, so if you're on the EU Megaserver, there's no reason that you shouldn't be signing up right now. For the Aldemary Dominion, Commodore Fury has been working really hard to get things up and running again there. He has a new guild known as the Dominion Guard. Here's their description. The Dominion Guard was formed out of a necessity for survival. Once a large band of pirates, assassins, and thieves, they have inevitably had to trade certain freedoms for their survival. Not from the Dominion itself, but from a larger threat sensed looming overhead. And so upon the finding and figuring of this foreboding objective, they have enlisted themselves within the Aldemary Dominion, for a mutually beneficial arrangement to both parties. Now, they stand as proud as they can pull it off, Dominion soldiers, for now. Another guild coming out of the woodwork, so to speak, is the Green Commune. They're back and they're set up in Woodhearth, so if you're interested in some immersive town roleplay, you should head there and get involved. In DC news, the Festival of Blades seems to have been a huge success. In Alakir, the city of Bergama, a celebration of the ancient Redguard's victory over the giant orcs of Maluk's horde drew in swordsmen and women from all over Covenant lands to compete and to appreciate Redguard culture. The victor of the tournament was Wolf Windwalker. Congratulations. In Wayrest news, it seems that there is a growing presence of Imperials. I remember from doing the Rumors of Tamriel series that Imperials and the Wayrest residents have always been a little on edge, and it sounds like that's still the case, which makes for some interesting roleplay. If you're interested in some Imperial roleplay, it sounds like Centuria Vindica is the place for you. A huge caravan of merchants, traders, and their guards traveled through Pact lands last week. They started in Mournhold and worked all the way up to Windhelm. But in Riften, they had a little bit of trouble with the newly formed Ebon Drakes Guild. A merchant by the name of Algar was found to have skooma on him. He was detained and charged by the guard regiment. Naughty. After Riften, they had a 2-night stopover in Nemalton at the Emberhearth Inn, and then worked their way up through Shorestone and ended in Windhelm. They encountered bandits, slavers, and goblins, and it sounds like it was quite the adventure. I really love travel roleplay, so I was really excited to see this. Very cool, guys. I know that EU has done some caravans in the past, so I hope that NA picks up on that, because that's pretty sweet. In recent weeks, Law and Order in Skyrim has seen a boost by those Ebon Drakes. They're newly formed, but it sounds like they're pretty big already. They take non-pact races, but are formed primarily of loyal Nords, Argonians, and Dunmer. The leader of this new unit is a Nord named Brynwolf. A leader of many battles and no stranger to leadership, Brynwolf is a controversial figure among the minorities of the Ebonheart Pact. Nonetheless, he is determined to lead the Ebon Drakes to glory for the Pact. And now our top story brings us back to North America. The story is brought to you by our NAAD news correspondent, Forest Guard.
From March to Mire is a storyline set primarily in Grotwood, focusing on the growth and trials of the Greymire Argonians, a tribe of ex-slaves who refused to join the Ebonheart Pact with their former masters, and were allowed a stretch of land on Valenwood's southern coast. The story started with the failed invasion of Cormount by Dark Elves and Nords. Members of the Bramblescar clan had followed rumors from treetop scouts of strange activities in the northwestern hills. There they fought their way into a mine, learning of the intended invasion, and freeing a small number of Argonians who had been kidnapped. Soon after, the Dark Elves attempted to pit the Bosmer natives against the Dominion by forging a document from Queen Irene, which instructed a company of Altmer to cut down an ancient and revered tree. Many gathered to protest the tree's destruction, and the Altmer were persuaded that the document was a forgery, just as the Dark Elves attacked, slaughtering many of the Altmer before retreating into the woods. In the wake of these events, 2 Dark Elves were run out of Haven, then nearly murdered in the woods by an Argonian whose wounds from captivity still ached. An Altmer priest and his clanmates were the only things stopping the brute from butchering the innocent Dunmer as they fled for more neutral territories. Though they had started long before, the rumors of the Greymire's growth reached a fever pitch as the Muckwater Tavern's construction completed, and the Argonians received their first visitors at its docks. Sailors from as far as Skyrim and Daggerfall came to load and unload cargo, a boat full of guar among it. The guar handlers at the mire had already been breeding the creatures, many having been taken on their journey to Valenwood. But with the surplus from the boat, they had more than enough to sell them as mounts and pets to their neighbors, the Wood Elves and their allies. Sadly, many of the guar from the boats came down with a so far undiagnosed illness and died just as the excited Wood Elves and Khajiit sought to ride them. Still more rumors abound of his sap being sold to the mire's inhabitants, shady characters at the docks, and strange disappearances. Whatever else was brought from Blackmarsh to Greymire, only time will tell.
I really like this story because it gives a reason for guar mounts to be in the Dominion. So if you're a role player, you should go in character, purchase a guar from these guys, and I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun to roleplay. So you can contact @ForestGuardian451 for that. And that's all the news that we have for now. I'm still figuring the whole news thing out and how it's going to be laid out and everything, so we're going to be a little bit experimental here, but I've always kind of done that on my channel, so we'll see how it goes. Things may change, but if you want your story on Scrollplay, you should definitely go to tinyurl.com/scrollplaynews. So let's move on to the interview. In the next few episodes of Scrollplay, we're going to be going with a theme. We're going to talk about villains, secrets, gray area characters, and who better to talk about that than Arthyn Sarthos, the notorious leader of House Sarthos, which is part of House Drez. Slaves Sujamma and Sarthos, I could have named the episode that. We'll have a couple of drinks, and I'll dig into the mind of one of the pack's most hated villains.
Click here to hear the extended interview, which includes a discussion on torture roleplay, Dunmer views on slavery, and House Sarthos' slave soldiers. All right, Jay, the Exile, welcome to Scrollplay.
Hey, thank you very much, Floyd. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and the very first thing that I have to ask you is, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Jack and Coke out of a Pirates of the Caribbean mug, like one of those cheap Disney knockoff ones.
That is pretty classy.
Consider it a kind of an ode to your Alton Cormat roleplay.
Nice. We're actually going to do another one of those coming up here soon. So go ahead and tell me who you are. Why am I interviewing you?
Well, I am Jay the Exile. I play Arthyn Sarthos. He is a counselor in Great House Drez and the leader of a minor house, House Sarthos. He is probably the biggest slaver in Morrowind, or at least in Stone Falls and Deshaun, and he's probably one of the most powerful Dunmer to, like, as far as resources, troops, and retainers, that kind of thing, to exist in the world as we know it right now. You know, it's very possible somebody's going to show up here with buy to play and just bring 100 guys and turn my character into, you know, kind of like the nobody of Morrowind. But as of right now, he's got it.
How did you get your start in roleplay before we dive into what it's like to be a hated slaver?
Well, I started out, my first role-playing experience was in the old Yahoo Chat user channels.
Nice.
And I kind of, I was just kind of bored one day. I was on the internet, which was still relatively new at the time, and I found the Yahoo Chat role-play channels. I was like, oh, cool, let's see what they have to talk about. And I went in there and I just saw all these people like pretending to be mages and wizards and everything else. And I was like, this is so cool. And so my very first attempt at role-playing, I was playing Final Fantasy IX at the time, and I was obsessed with it, as I shouted in big caps letters, I am a black mage. Bow down and worship me. And then I proceeded to attack the entirety of the chat room and even god moding and metagaming like I was, because it was my first ever attempt at roleplay. I got my butt whooped.
So your first roleplay was entering the scene and saying, look at me, I'm gonna kill you all.
Yes, I was an evil special snowflake.
A black snowflake.
Black snowflake. Oh, hey, Morrowind, I was an ash flake.
Yeah, there you go. That's gonna be your new nickname.
I like it.
So would you consider your character a villain then? Because that's kind of the theme that I'm going with over these next few episodes, and he's a slaver and is very reviled by many people in character.
I guess it would be determined on what side of the fence you're on. Arthyn Sarthos, I've told people, is a great ally to have and a horrible enemy to have, because if you're his ally, he kind of has this paternal protective instinct, and it descends a lot from having lost a lot in his life. He lost his biological mother, his stepmother, his father, and then his first loss as a role player. When I started role playing him, he lost his unborn child. His wife miscarried, and he lost that. So when he has an ally, he sees somebody kind of pushing around somebody that he calls a friend, or at least somebody that can do something for him. He gets very protective very quickly, and he has a huge temper, and he'll basically threaten to remove your fingernails, take out your eyeballs, and skin you alive while everyone listens to you scream.
I know your thugs have cut off a couple of Lixus's limbs before.
Yet they always seem to grow back. I really need to see what they're doing about that.
So would you call him maybe more of a mafia type guy then?
Exactly. That's a great way of looking at it, Floyd.
You guys are the mafia of Stone Falls.
Exactly. Legalized mafia. That's the way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, in Morrowind, if you do things politically, pretty much anything's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Anything goes.
So you consider him a villain in a sense that he's gonna mess up his enemies?
Well, he's definitely in it for himself. His goal is him and his people. And in his eyes, if you are in the way of that, you are to be discarded, you are to be removed, and you are to be made an example of.
He has recently achieved the title The Butcher of the Vale. And this was in relation to an event at the Mabergash village, because the Mabergash signed up with the Cult of the Nerevarine and have been involved in the massive civil war in Morrowind. Tell me a little bit about that title and what it means for your character.
Well, that title, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about that day. Arthyn Sarthos has the title of the Grand Warlord of Morrowind, which means in the Ashlander Civil War plot, he is the second in command to the Hortator, Ramus Samaris of Great House Redoran. His orders were to take the army of Morrowind there because they were using ghost snakes against the army of Morrowind, and his orders were to subdue them and make them show them how to stop the ghost snakes that were attacking them. Well, worst comes to worse, and one of the Great House Redoran people gets hit by an arrow from a Magerbash, and a Telvanni wizard lord, Dracenth Samaris, loses her mind and tries to bind the snakes and loses control of them, and they just start slaughtering the village. Arthyn is just looking on like, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. This is horrible. And he finally yells to his people, go in, take prisoners. Capture as many that are left as you can.
So the snakes, Dracenth tried to control the snakes, and failed, and then they went crazy and started slaughtering the Mabergash?
Yes. So that she kind of had control of them in the sense of, we are friends, they are not, but she couldn't, like, control them. So Arthyn orders his people to go in, the entire army of Morrowind, to go in and take prisoners, but led by the Ordinators at the front, they just start slaughtering every last man, woman, and child. And Arthyn is just absolutely beside himself. Like, he kind of like ran in to try to take control, but it was just too chaotic, too many people not listening to him, and he kind of stumbled out, fell to his knees, and just threw up on the ground outside the village, just absolutely disgusted by what he was seeing. The slaughter was horrible. He ended up taking the title, the Butcher of the Vale, because he was in charge of it. And his personal reasons, a lot of people, at first glance, and I would expect this, would expect that he was bragging about having led the attack that butchered the Magrabash village. In reality, it's a mark of shame for him. Every time he signs anything official, he signs his titles. So every time he sends a letter to another noble, every time he's introduced to somebody important that's never seen him before, every time he tells somebody who he is and his titles, he has to say at one point, Butcher of the Vale. And every single time that happens, he has to be reminded of the fact that he failed to stop an entire village from being slaughtered down to the last man, woman, and child. It is a constant reminder that he can never fail as a leader again. He has to be in absolute control in order to keep something like that from happening.
Very intense.
Yeah. Sorry.
It gives me chills.
Sorry. I don't mean to chill you to the bones. Usually it's much hotter whenever I'm in a room.
I don't know which one I prefer. What can you tell me about playing a villainous character? It's something that a lot of people don't quite approach because it can get really dark, but there must be some value in it because so many people do it, and you end up with such cool stories. So tell me a little bit about like why you play a character like that and what it does for you and what it could do for other people who try it as well.
That is deserved by a several-part answer. Well, first of all, what it does for me is it kind of opens and expands my mind. In real life, I am not a bad guy. Like, I have a temper, as everybody does, and I'll occasionally lose my temper and say something insultingly to somebody else. But that usually is the kind of thing that will keep me up at nights for weeks and just apologizing to them over and over again. Like, I'm not a mean guy. So not only does this give me the opportunity to see what it would like to be a total jerkwad, but it also expands my mind, like, because I can't just focus, what would I do in real life? No, I have to come up with what this guy would do, being morally questionable and not caring as much about emotions and people being offended and that kind of thing almost.
So you have to take on the role of somebody who does not think like you do.
Exactly, and it's a constant learning experience. And it's also, even more so than someone who doesn't think like me, I also have to think about somebody who also thinks about political consequences. So it's a many-sided die trying to come up with how Arthyn would react to certain situations. Luckily for Arthyn, he has surrounded himself with relatively diplomatic individuals. My co-guildmaster, Azura Dusk, a.k.a. Delphinia Aconite, is absolutely amazing at being diplomatic, and she often plays the good cop to Arthyn's bad cop.
He probably needs like 2 or 3 good cops.
Oh my gosh, you should see him. His temper is legendary.
There are a lot of people that don't like you out of character. I would say your character is the most hated character I see, but there are some people that take it a lot farther. So what do you have to say in response to that?
Well, most of what I've seen as far as people who don't like Sarthos almost always revolve around the same touchy subject, and that would be slavery. And it's interesting to me because a lot of characters I see don't like Sarthos because of slavery, but there's really not a lot, aside from Argonians and Khajiit, who are enslaved so heavily by the Dunmer, I don't feel as if there's a lot of lore basis for most other races, except for perhaps the Imperials, to disliking slavery. Like Nords are kind of like, like you're strong. You should be strong. And it's almost like if you're enslaved by a dark elf of all things, don't you deserve to be in slavery? Don't you deserve to be in chains because you couldn't stop them? But it's a lot of people like kind of take that out of character. A lot of people don't like me out of character. They almost think that I have some poor third world native chained to a computer somewhere playing a genie servant. Like it's like I don't know what they like actually think that I'm doing out of character. Like when I joke about slavery in the out of character channels and the different phasing guilds. And it's like, do you think I actually support owning another human being? Like, no, like I joke about my character just like everybody else does, and it's really quite funny. And so, like, I guess to answer the original question you asked, how do I respond to that would be, I'm going to try not to. If you don't like me, then it's honestly, if you don't like me out of character, it's honestly because you don't know me. Because, like, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm a nice guy. There are very few people I don't get along with.
Yeah, I think sometimes people get upset about things that happen in character and take it OOC. I think that blending is a pretty common problem.
Yeah. In roleplay, you always have to kind of put yourself in the character's shoes. Well, sometimes it's hard to discern what that character would object to morally. And some things are easy. Murder. Nobody, like, very rarely in any society since the beginning of time has murder been an acceptable profession. But slavery, especially nowadays, there's a lot of still resentment, especially in the United States of America, towards the institution of slavery almost 200 years ago. So it's easy for people to go, yeah, slavery is bad. My character would feel that way as well. And so a lot of people would probably use, because it's almost, I don't want to call it easy, but it's a very quick turnaround. Like people can very quickly say, I don't like slavery. I'm going to have my character, that's going to be what my character morally objects to. And so it's interesting because sometimes I laugh because it's just so funny. It's just so fun to be a villain sometimes. It makes everybody in character mad. But the goal of it is never, if anyone's listening out there that's been ticked off by my character, the goal is never to make you out of character mad. It's really just to push icy buttons.
And you get interesting interactions out of that, I see, too, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many roleplay we've had with attempted abolitionists and Dunmer bleeding hearts almost.
Awesome. Well, I just have one final question for you then.
Oh, I look forward to it. I can't wait to hear what the cherry on the top of the ice cream is.
All right, here goes. If you had Chim and you could change one thing about ESO the game, what would it be?
I would probably I have no patience, so I would probably immediately create the city of Tyr, which is the largest Great House Dres city in Elder Scrolls universe in Tamriel. And I would make it, as always that I've imagined it, a giant, almost free-flowing market city filled with enormous pens of Khajiit and Outlander slaves. I plan before too long, because you've seen role players in this community have been able to get very close to the ZeniMax almost leadership, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're really open to talking to role players.
Yeah, I definitely want to try to contact them. I kind of would like to see what is going to happen with Tyr so we know what to expect lore-wise. I don't want to jump the gun on anything that occurs. I want to follow Great House Dres lore as much as possible.
Awesome. Well, that's about all the time we have, but before we go, I need to warn you, next time you come into my hut, I'll bash your face in with a mace.
That's reasonable. That's reasonable considering Arthyn threatened to occupy Stormhold the last time it happened. It went over poorly, but once again, it was all about a fief. A fief had been kidnapped, and Arthyn was determined by any means necessary to get him back.
Alright, this has been Jay the Exile and the Human Floyd. Thanks for coming on the show, Jay.
Absolutely, Floyd. Thank you once again for letting me on your show, and to all the role players out there, I just wanted to say, continue doing what you do. You guys are making this game absolutely amazing, and I thank every single one of you for it.
And that's about it for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. If you missed the character feature and the character exercise, worry not. There's a new show coming up called the Scrollplay Character Corner, so keep your eyes open for that. In the next episode of Scrollplay, I will be interviewing the player of Naris Tanisi to talk about secrets, backstabbing, spying, and other shady roleplay. Thanks for watching, guys, and always remember that roleplay is what you make of it. Keep roleplaying. Peace.
Stop. Okay, let me first say that the rumors are completely untrue. Arthyn does not have a freezer full of attractive Bosmeri slaves. Whoever told you that is lying. Guys, empty the freezer before they come.